Hi guys, my name is Dakota Barrows. My mechanic is a door and a generator. I created a door that you cannot open by clicking on it. You need the generator to open the door, so my mechanic is the generator in itself. I'm going to be showing it off. I'm going to be showing the entire level that I have created using the generator, so I'll be showing all three instances of the generator, and I will be showing how my code works. I will be explaining the general idea behind the mechanic as well. So let's begin. As you can see, at the beginning of my level, I just created an area with a forest, some zombies in it. Not really important for what we're doing here, so let us just get to the generator. Alright, so the first generator the player comes across is right here. This is just showing off the easy, having to figure out what to do. So here's the door, can't open it. Alright, so we're going to explain the mechanic. Here's the generator, here's the door. The way this works is I need to get inside there to get over that wall. If I try to run and jump over it, I can't. There's boxes inside this warehouse to get over there. So walking up to this door is blocked. Generator, if I press the button on it, the button flashes red, indicating to the player that there is not enough power or enough juice. Let's call it power. Not enough power to operate said generator to open said door. So we need to find the battery that we can place right where this green glowing indicator is. If we read this note, the note indicates that Mike is taking the batteries from the generator and they're running out of cars to search. So we should probably check some cars. If we head back to this truck back here, which is a car, but it's a vehicle, we can find a battery. We take said battery, and we run back over here, and we stick the battery into the generator. We press the button, door opens. Now we go in here, we can grab the box. We drop the box off here, we can just climb up and over. Not all of the vehicles, this is important to show, not all of the vehicles have batteries. Some of them do, some of them do not. The player is supposed to head this way, they can explore the town, but we're going to just show off the mechanic. And the light just went off, showing that we should probably head this way. So let us go and check out the generator. This generator is missing a battery, and there's no vehicle nearby that has a battery, so we should search the area of the town to try to find a battery. I know where the battery is, so we're just going to go and grab it so I can quickly indicate and show how this works. We take this battery back to the generator and we plug it in. Alright, there's a few other things that I did not show with the original battery, the original generator that is important to show. If I press this button, it is now green, which means it's on. If I press this button, the door is now open, and I can go through. The generator, this engine up here spins, which if I press this button and the door closes, it is no longer spinning, the engine is now off. If I were to remove this battery, drop it there, and press this red button telling you there's no power. It is a solid red because the battery's not plugged in. If I press it, it just goes back to yellow. If I press yellow, it just flashes red, indicating again, no power. Plug it back in, back to green. And then we can open the door again. And then we come through here. And as you can see, there's a few other things going on in here, but we're going to head down this direction where we need to go. To the third and final generator. Third generator's in here, and the door for it is right here. There is a little light on the doors right there. That when you turn the generator on and the door opens, the light will turn on. So we got to go find a battery. We're also going to go up there. So let's quickly grab a box. to head up that direction. Well, I could check the cars. There's a couple around. There's one that's close by that's right here. That one does have a battery in it, but we're trying to be quick about this. So let's go and grab this battery right here. And if we take this battery back and plug it in, so you can see the light is not on. If we press it, it is now on. There's also a low rumble you can hear when I turn the generator on. That's intentional, so you hear it. But anyway, so as you can see, it is spinning, and the light is now on. If I press the button again, which we will show, the door is now closed, and the light is now off. So, yeah, here we go. So you can see the light turns on, and it starts spinning when the button is pressed. Now, we're going to go up here really quick. And we're going to grab the key. And then we can exit the sewer. Key. Well, we do have it, so let's use it. And there we go. Those are the 3 generators and their uses. You have the generator to open the warehouse, the generator to open the secondary door, and the 3rd generator open here. There is a 4th generator in this level, but it is an optional generator, so I figured I would just show off these 3. Now we're going to jump over and I'm going to show you how my code for the generator and the door work. Let's start with the door. It's a little bit simpler. It does have complicated bits, but those complicated sequences or sections of the code are mostly in the generator, because the generator is calling to the door's functions to open the door and close the door and to switch lights on and off. So we're going to go over the door really quick. I'm going to show how the door looks in the viewport, and then we're going to go over the code. Same thing with the generator. We're going to start with the showing off the creation of it. So we have the thin, just normal square. We have a cylinder. We have a couple other cubes that are just up here to give the shape. So we have the long one that's just like the top. This one that houses the engine and the light. And then we have the door, obviously, and we have the door base, which is just the thing that holds everything together. So now let's go over to the event graph. The event graph is right here. At the beginning of the event begin play, we make sure the door is visible, because it'd be a little awkward if all the doors were just invisible. So we make sure they're set to be visible. There's a reason why I have them switch to being invisible. I didn't want them floating, but like when they get raised, when they rise up, I didn't want them to be above, like say the warehouse. I didn't want the door to be above the warehouse and just hang there, so I had them despawn so the player can't see them when they're there. That's why it's like this. Alright, so when we call the open door function in generator, which we'll get to, so when we call the open door function, when we call the open door function, which is a custom event, when we call the custom event open door, we'll just call it that. We'll just say open door. When we call open door, we are setting the material. What am I setting the material here? Setting this one. This is the one that rotates, right? Because it's the engine. So this is the grid that rotates. I didn't want to make the grid. I didn't want to create a. I didn't want to pull the cylinder and tell it to spin. I could have, and I did before, which was pretty simple. When we did it, I do it later to move the door up and down anyway. But I just use the dev grid panner X gray, because that just rotates by default, so I just have the engine switch to that. I wait 2 seconds. I have the light change its color to go from yellow to be the emissive yellow, which just makes it look like it lights up. And then after the light is on, that's when I move the door. So then we move the door, and we move it from its starting spot, which we'll get to what the starting spot is in a second, but we move the door up to 340 on the Z, and then we delay 0.5 seconds, and then we set it to hidden. I waited 0.5 because I didn't want it to become hidden while it was still moving up, So I wait about half a second before hiding it, and then it becomes hidden, and so the player can't see it, just floating. It is above the building or the garage. And then with the closed door event, which is another custom event, we have a set hidden in game door. We make it so it is still we just turn it, make it so it's visible again, and then we move it back to the original spot. So that's 120, which move it back down so it closes and becomes sealed off. We wait 10 seconds and we tell the engine to stop spinning, and we turn the light off. We also have an event on reset. We just have target interaction. That's important, so that way if the character dies or has to respawn for any reason, that everything is set the way it was before to match with the checkpoints that you have. So that is what I did here. I'm going to just quickly go over it without talking. That way if you need to pause it, or if you want to pause or just look at it or take a screenshot, you can. So really quick, here we go. Alright, now we're switching over to the generator. The generator is, like I said, slightly more complicated on the code side of things, but the creation of it wasn't all that complicated. It's just a couple of cubes and a couple of cylinders. So the cube, I used a front thing. The base is just a generic cube. Didn't really change anything about it. I added the front thing to it, so it'd be a panel. There's a cylinder here. That's an antenna. Then you have the top part of it that is just where the battery goes. That's just like the battery holder. They're literally just set the battery there. And then you have the button that lights up when it has power, doesn't have power, or has insignificant power. Doesn't have enough power. There's 3 colors: red, yellow, green. Now let's go over to the event graph so we can see how all these things work. The only one that I call in the event graph is the button. So let's go over to into the event graph. In event graph, in the event graph, we have event begin play. We're going to call the button, and we're going to set interactive components. We're going to turn that component to make an array. We're only going to set one button because that's all I've used for this this code. We're going to get it. If it's valid, we're gonna battery checker. We're gonna get the battery checker. That's important. We want a boolean. We want one boolean. We're gonna call it powered. We want 2. Then we want 2 things. One called connected door, and one called battery checker. The connected door calls to the PB door. It's DB is just my initials, but we're going to call it to the PB door, and then the other one we're calling to just physical object, the physical object slot type, which is what we use, which we'll get to in a second. But we're going to call back to those 2 things. So we want one of that to be the door, which is the one we created, and that's the one that's connected door. That's important for making sure we can call back to the open door and closed door. So we get the battery checker. We're saying, hey, are you valid? We're binding the event on slot update, which is important. We're connecting it to another custom event that we're just calling power, because that's what it is. We're setting the power event. We're going to check to see if it's powered. We're going to toggle it with the button, yes or no. If true, then we're going to make the immersion green. The immersion. We're going to make the button green, making it so the player can press it and stuff can happen, right? Like, you can do stuff because now it's powered. If it's not powered, it is just going to be red. Pretty simple. Then when we go over to the event interaction feedback, if it is powered, true. This is what it does if it's green. So if it is powered and it is true, when you click it, it'll make a little clicking button sound like you're pushing on the button. We'll wait 0.2 seconds, and then we will play we'll play the same sound. Oh, I know why I did that. So then we play the sound again, and then we're going to flip-flop back and forth. And then if we're turning it on, we go through A here. We play the Cave 1 sound effect that I have, which is what just makes a low rumble sound. Because a cave sound, the sound was wind being blown through the cave, so it just sounds like a low rumble. So I just change the pitch to 0.7, change the volume multiplier to 0.6, start time 0.1, and it sounds like an engine starting up. Like, I didn't want it to make it sound really loud and overpower all the other sounds, so I made it just a low sound. Duration is 0.2 seconds, and then for the delay, and then we're going to open the door. We have to pull the connected door and make sure we're calling off of the pulled connected door. You got to pull off here and say open door, and there it is. Now, with the other option, it's very similar to what A is, except we are just playing the normal. I just picked the docking sound because I didn't want it to be like the engine. I wanted it to be like shutting off. So now it's the closed door function that we're calling back to. Again, you just pull off and call closed. Whoop. You call closed door. There it is. So we're just closing the door that way. Now, if it is false, what we're doing is we're grabbing the material and we're setting it to red, and then you wait 1 second, and then it just switches to yellow. Like, oh, don't have the power, switch to yellow. That way it flashes back and forth between yellow and red when you click it. Like, nope, doesn't have power, so it's just going to be flashing back and forth between these two. And then we're going to have event on reset, no power. Make sure this is unchecked. That way it is false by default. And then we are going to enable interaction. So, really quick, let's go up here, and on event begin graph, this is the connection to all of this thing. So let's just go over really slowly, so that way if you need to take a screenshot or you want to pause it, you can. Here we go. Alright, now before I end the video, let's quickly go and see the other couple things we have to do. Make sure you set connected door and battery checker. Make sure you set those to instant editable. That is very important because for the next step. So after you have created these things, there is a next step that is important, which is going back into the level. If we want to put down a new door or a new battery within the level area, you need to make sure that you can do that, because when you put down a generator, you're going to have connected door and battery checker. You're going to have these two things in the default because we needed to make sure we set them instant editable, so we can. So make sure you did. You're going to have connected door and battery checker. Connected door, you're going to grab the little eyedrop icon. You're going to click it, and you're going to click on the door you want. In this case, I wanted this door, so I clicked on it. That way, when this generator is turned on, this door opens. The next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to bring in a PB physic object slots, and then when you bring that in, drag and drop, and make sure when you drag and drop it, you switch to battery and place that inside the generator's little battery holder, which is right up top here. The way I designed it, at least the way I've designed it, it is right up top here. You can put it on the side or the front or whatever, but I have it on the top. So you place it on the top, and you make sure that when you place it there, after you place it there, you click on this and you click on that, so that way that's connected to this. Then you put a battery in the world somewhere. You don't have to put it in the car, but I put it in the car just because that's where the hint tells you that you could look. So when you check in the car, it's right here, and the player can pick it up. When you put the battery down, the battery I have, you pick it up from the corner. So the offset that I have is 5, 15, and 0. That seems to work pretty well. The other one I could do is 5, 15, and -5. I've also found that to work pretty well. That way it looks like you're at least carrying it kind of in the center. A little offset, but mostly in the center. And then you carry it, the player can carry it and place it in the generator and can power the door. Anyway, so like I said, my mechanic is called the generator. I assume that's what I would call this mechanic. So the generator powers the door, and you get a battery. Place the battery in the generator, press the button, and the generator turns on, and the light turns on. You can press it again, and if you pull the battery out and try to start it, obviously the generator does not work. And you'll see that it doesn't work anyway. So that is what I've created for this generator. I could see a couple. So that's. Ooh. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good one. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.